Good evening and welcome to the Job Search Solution, the radio program where we talk about looking for a job, changing jobs, changing careers, and hiring. So you made a mistake in the last job you took, right? Well, we're going to talk about that. We always begin with a prayer. Dear God, grant us thy peace and thy mercy. Thy will be done. And in just a few minutes, Rich Savinski is going to be with us talking about consultants in the workplace. He has a great topic this evening, as he always does. He's really good. He's been at it for a long time. We've been in the habit of taking 10 seconds to be grateful. So think of 3 things today that have made you grateful. Go. You can't be unhappy when you're grateful. 10 seconds of gratitude. All right. Last week, we talked about when you make a mistake in hiring someone, and happens more often than everybody wants to admit. You make a mistake in hiring. That's just the way it goes. Well, now we're going to talk about the candidate side of what to do when you make a mistake in finding a job. You find out you've made a mistake. First of all, most everybody walks into a new job fairly positive about the decision that they've made. Sometimes they come to the realization that they've made a mistake. The first thing to do is recognize that, to analyze what the mistake might have been. Just because you're fearful of what's going on in the situation doesn't necessarily mean that it's a mistake. Sometimes these things work out. 30% of the time when I get a call from a candidate 2 weeks, 3 weeks into a job, they're saying things like, I need to get out of here. When this happens from time to time, I've made a mistake. I tell them to take a deep breath, relax, give it a month, and then see. Now, it depends on, of course, what the situation is. I've had terrible situations where employers have tried to take advantage of people in terrible personal ways. Then those are obviously mistakes in the very beginning. You have to decide whether or not you've made a mistake. If you have made a mistake, then you need to try to rectify that mistake, and you need to either quit, which is a possibility, or if you're like most people, you need to start trying to find a job again. It's very difficult to do and very hard to do. I must tell you that sometimes, no matter how much discipline you have in looking for a job and how much due diligence you do in looking for a job, investigating a position, and in trying to find the right kind of job, there are some things you just don't know about a job or a company or an opportunity until you get into it. There are sometimes companies are just plain deceitful about the situation that they're in and the situation that the position is in, or what you're going to be asked to do. Or sometimes it's just, now that doesn't happen, but maybe 10% of the time, to where it's just you're blindsided by things that you couldn't foresee at all. Most of the time, when a mistake is made, it's just been an error in judgment. You're going to make them from time to time, and there's really not much you can do about it. Give it a lot of thought. If you come to the conclusion that you've made a mistake, you need to sit down with somebody that has confidence in you and discuss it with them and see if it's really indeed a mistake. Sometimes these mistakes work out, but if it's a mistake that isn't going to be able to be worked out, for instance, you find out that the company is in terrible financial condition and they didn't tell you that when you began, and they're on the brink of destruction or something like that, and you come to that conclusion, just pick yourself up, take a deep breath, and realize that everyone makes mistakes. Don't blame other people for it. Blame yourself for not taking as much care in trying to investigate the company as best you can, and pick up where you started to interview, where you left off interviewing before. Explain it to prospective employers in the sense of, I just plain made a mistake. Here's where I've made a mistake, and here's where I'd rather not do it again. Whatever you do, don't go overboard about making a mistake. Oh, I made a mistake. I made a mistake. I don't want to make another mistake. My goodness, I don't want to make another mistake. And then all verklempt about making a mistake and worrying about making another mistake, and get so wrapped up in not making a mistake that you make another mistake, which happens to a lot of people. They go overboard in not wanting to make a mistake, and that's the first thing they do. Take very good steps towards start looking again and explaining to a prospective employer the mistake that you made, not blaming other people, not being not taking on responsibility for the mistake that you made, and move forward. Explain it very gracefully and objectively, and take responsibility for it. It's going to happen if you're in a career for a long period of time. You're going to make a mistake somewhere along the line. It's just the way business goes. And there's really not much you can do about it except rectify the mistake, but rectify it in the right way. Don't go overboard one way or the other, blaming a lot of other people. Take on the responsibility, but recognize the mistake and do something about it. All right, we're going to take a short break. Stay tuned. This is Tony Bashir with the Job Search Solution.